Welcome to this episode of the Limitation is Rise podcast. Today I have Master J.H. Tepley. Master Tepley is a teacher, author, international speaker, and the founder, Akari, of Arya Creed, a transformational warrior philosophy, the modern times for the 20th. For the last 20 years, she's been helping her students around the globe to align with her true life purpose and embrace their personal power and become a greater force for change in the world. Her method, Arya Mind Training, is a unique system that combines ancient wisdom with recent scientific discoveries in philosophy, quantum physics, and neuroscience. Master J often refers to her work as elite spiritual forces.
That's right. Elite spiritual forces. It's
training.
like special. No, it's like special forces, but in spirit. So elite spiritual forces.
I like that. I like that idea. I'm going to get back to that. Master J's books include the Codex Simperis and the Lightwatch Chronicles are available worldwide. So thank you very much for jumping on.
Thank you for having me.
I'm really excited for this talk. So one of the things that I thought we would talk about, because it's an area that we both know a lot about, and we get questioned on it a lot, is meditation. So are you happy to go with meditation and things like that?
Absolutely, yeah. Let's jump into it. I teach meditation, amongst other things, actually, and it's one of the most important areas to train yourself in if you want to become a stronger, more elite version of yourself. So, absolutely.
Yeah. I fully agree with that. It's one of the things that I've noticed out of everything I teach. It's when people actually settle down and grasp meditation that's when they start to see their full potential and start to grow. If I knew nothing about meditation, what would be your starting point for me? How would you describe it to me?
All right. So the way I describe meditation is a workout for the mind, and it's literally a workout of sorts. Obviously, you're training your spiritual side, your energy, your mind, and not your muscle. Although that is interconnected because, as you know, your muscles are activated by your nervous system, which is activated by your brain, which is activated by your mind. So it really, really comes down to the level of your energy. This is why sometimes people can't work out on certain days with the same muscle mass, simply because their emotional, mental state is a little bit out of whack, or their energy state is low. So this is where meditation steps in. Meditation allows you to build up your energy potential, the strength and resilience in your mind, and literally evolve consciously into a better, more advanced, stronger, more charismatic, wiser, calmer version of yourself. So I can't really praise it enough. It's a fantastic tool. Now, there is a problem. The problem is, and this is where most people trip, and this is why I've met people who said they meditated for 10 years, 20 years, whatever the story is, and they haven't really progressed much. And the reason for that is because there are certain mistakes to avoid, and most people are unaware of those. And I find it really unfortunate, simply because if you put so much time and effort into something, no matter what it is, anything, you obviously want to see the returns of your investment, right? So if you put so much time into, doing meditation, you meditate at least 20 minutes a day, and then after 5 years or 10 years, you're still exactly where you were, or maybe with some minor improvements, that is just not good enough. So the greatest mistake to avoid in meditation, I would say, number one, that keeps people stuck, is that they don't prepare for meditation properly. So instead of, you actually have to warm up, so to speak. In other words, you have to wind down. So same as trying to work out without a warm up can lead to injuries. Trying to meditate without first winding yourself down just doesn't produce results. Because, as you probably know from neuroscience, we've got different brain waves which we use during the day. And the normal brainwaves, the beta brainwaves that we usually operate on. So for example, right now I'm talking to you and you're listening to me and we're both in beta and we're both using those brainwaves. Now, they are a little bit too fast for the brain to meditate. So the information processing range is just not good for meditation. This is why, by the way, if you sit down to meditate and your mind just won't shut up and your thoughts keep racing, you are in beta. This is why nothing is happening. And this actually frustrates people even more because they're like, well, I'm trying to meditate and my brain is just won't shut up. And it gets more and more stressful and frustrating. So my point is, you have to slow down your brainwaves to alpha. And the alpha state, it may sound a bit mysterious, but it's not, because we actually go in and out of that state throughout the day. And the easiest actually way to trick your brain to instantly go into alpha. And you can by the way, you can do it with us right now. If you find something with a texture. So for example, I'm wearing this jumper and it's got a bit of a soft texture. So if you feel a texture, the texture of your clothes, and you really focus on it, like focus on what your sensations are, what you will notice, your mind goes quiet, like your thoughts stop, because in that moment you go into alpha. Same thing happens when you taste something. For example, if you're watching what's happening to your mind in that moment, you will notice that your thinking actually naturally shuts down, because the alpha state is about feeling and sensing, but not thinking. So this is where you want to get to meditate properly. So essentially, you want to shift your gears. You want to put your mind in a different gear. Now, how you do it? It's actually super simple. You have to relax your body. Now, another problem with that is that most people have no idea how to do it. And you would think, that's incredible, like everyone knows how to relax. But no, because our life is so stressful right now, and because as people, most of us are under a lot of pressure, there are lots of challenges to deal with. What happens is there is a bodily response to continuous stress that is called armoring. And so armoring occurs when you have muscles that become chronically tense. In other words, they forget how to relax. And you can experience that, for example, when you try to fall asleep and you can't sleep because you're too tense. That is your body armoring getting in the way. And if, for example, sometimes if anyone tried to massage your shoulders and they're like, that is as hard as rock, that's body armoring. And it happens a lot because of, as I said, because of our stressful life, working on computers for a long time, and other stressful factors. So that body armoring prevents many people from relaxing because their body has literally forgotten how to do it. So what do? You have to teach your body again how to relax. You have to remind it how to do it. And there is a video on my YouTube channel, Ari Creed, that is a step-by-step tutorial of how to do it.
I'll link it in underneath so people can get it.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So you have to teach your body how to relax again. And then, once you made your body remember, now you can use it. So the step is as follows. Firstly, you set up your intention, and it's super important. So say to yourself, for the next 20 minutes, I am going to meditate and do nothing else but meditate. That is my 20 minutes workout just for me. Once the intention is set, and obviously with that intention, you need to know why you're doing it. So same as with your physical workout, whether you want to have a stronger hips or a six-pack or bigger shoulders or whatever else you're working towards. So you have a clear idea in mind what you are working towards. And it's really important with meditation as well. The reason why it's so important is because if you don't give your mind a task to work on, it's much more easily distracted, and your motivation drops much more easily. Because if you're working towards something and putting your effort with no clear goal in mind, that's demoralizing. So you want to avoid that. There are different types of meditation for different purposes. By the way, you can check my YouTube channel if you want to find some inspiration. But the bottom line is there are different types of meditation that do different things, same like different types of workout, and you need to know what you're working towards. So having set up that intention, now relax your body using the full body relaxation technique, and now you can meditate. So have these two steps solidly in place. And the third step, I would say, is really important to include. And again, this is what trips up many people. In meditation, you are actually quite vulnerable. What I mean by that, when you asleep or when you meditate, your natural energy defenses, so to speak, go down. So you're much more exposed to what can be described as negative energy or astral entities and things like that. And so, both when you sleep and when you meditate, you definitely want to put up energy shields around you. Okay? And if you're like, oh my God, what energy shields? I have no idea. Again, there is a video on my YouTube that explains what it is and how to do it. But essentially, energy follows thought. So it's pretty simple. And you can do it even if you didn't have any prior training in spiritual self-defense or astral combat or anything like that. Now, because energy follows thought, if you do things the right way, you can actually call things into existence. And you probably know this from the law of attraction and similar disciplines. So you can call things into existence. Same with the shields. You can direct your energy so that it creates walls around you. And this is what you want to meditate safely. Failing that, if you feel that it's too much bother, simply light a candle, right? So meditate with a candle. It can be also a good concentration point on you. Well, careful, obviously, not to damage your eyes. But essentially, if this is why many people naturally like to concentrate with a candle or meditate by a waterfall, because they can subconsciously sense that those things give them protection. So you want to protect yourself because there are stories of people, and if you don't believe me, Google them. There are stories of people who had nasty astral experiences during their spiritual practice simply because they didn't play safe. And it doesn't take much. It doesn't take any training, simply some awareness and, well, being willing to basically protect yourself, okay?
Can I just interrupt you there, jump in? Just a few things that came up before I forget them, because every time you talk about meditation, my meditative brain switches off a wee bit and just zooms into what you're saying, and I'm like, no, I need to pay attention because I have questions to ask later.
For sure.
So I love the way you talk about it. Like, we've known each other for years, and anytime we talk about it, it is like, I feel like we go into like a meditative conversation. I love the way you liken it to working out, because in the same idea, like you could, people would never just run into a gym, start picking things up and swinging them, and
exactly right. Yeah, so true.
And just hope that somehow that builds them their six pack or they lose weight. So they do a bit of research, and that's basically what you're saying. That, and I found it as well. Most people fail at meditation because they try to meditate, and you're like, when you try to do something, if you don't know how to do it, you should learn about it and develop more skills, and then eventually you just meditate or you just go to the gym. Whereas most people
do or do not, there is no try.
Exactly, yeah. So most people will go in, I find, and try, fail, because they don't know what they're trying to actually, even if they succeeded and became the greatest meditator to ever exist in the world, they wouldn't even know. They would be like, oh, I don't think that worked. And then they would leave. So a lot of the stuff you talked about, self-awareness for me kept coming up. I like the idea of the candle. I would always explain to people that's why whenever there's a fire on, people have a tendency, if they run out of conversation, they just stare at the fire.
Mm,
Like there's something meditative about it, and prepping to
absolutely.
meditate, and trying to relax your mind, even just paying attention and feeling something different, just changes the pattern into they're
Alpha.
setting themselves up. Yeah, even if they didn't know if it was alpha, beta, whatever they were doing, they know that they're setting themselves up for a better experience rather than just going. So do you find
Absolutely.
that self awareness is a sort of the way I like it is it's like common sense. It's not as common as people believe it to be. So people think they're self aware, but when you start to explain, they go, I didn't know that. I didn't no, I'm not aware of that
Mm.
at all. So how do you build that? Because I know you talked about the protection that people need and whenever they're meditating. So how do people be more aware of their ability to meditate, the being in whatever state they're in, whether it's alpha, beta, how do they become more aware of that?
Right. So, are you asking how do they know if their meditation works?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, it's very easy. It's super easy to tell whether you're doing it right because if you did it right, you get up a slightly different person than you were when you first sat down on the cushion. So, what I mean by that, let's say you're a bit frustrated, you go into meditation, and then you get up a very different person, feeling much more joyful, relaxed, and peaceful. Even if it's just a little bit, it means that you're doing it right. If after meditation you feel exactly the same as you were when you started your practice, or if you're feeling worse, that means that you're not doing it right. So this is a very easy way of doing this self-check.
Brilliant. Yeah. So again, a lot of people think it's very complicated, but that's I put it even simpler to people as I go, well, if you were meditating because you're stressed and then you're not stressed after, then it worked. If you're
Exactly.
somehow more stressed,
Then it didn't.
then it didn't work. Um,
Exactly.
so sorry to interrupt you. We'll get back to so we had talked about the protection, and then where were we going then? I guess jumped in because I was excited.
No, that's good. So remember intention, relaxation, and protection. So treat it with the same kind of mindset as you treat your physical workout because you would try to protect your body. You wouldn't do things that, say, strain your ligaments or damage your body in any way. Same with meditation. Now, to avoid damage in meditation, which is actually possible because it's a workout, it's a training, and people have this uncanny, amazing ability to damage themselves with literally anything.
Yeah.
So, safety first. How to play it safe? Well, the best way to train meditation and to really get powerful and solid results is to do it in progression. Same as with physical exercises, you start with small weights. If you're into weightlifting, for example, and then you build yourself up so you don't grab the most the biggest, the heaviest weights right from the beginning because you know how that is against common sense. Mind you, some people say that common sense is a superpower these days. Is that
Yeah, I agree.
so? So start in progressions, and if you don't know how to do it in progressions, I would suggest you use this book. It's called Codex Simperis. Liam actually mentioned it. So this book explains a lot of things about how to become a spiritual warrior, but amongst others, it's got, I don't know if you can see.
It's in reverse, but for
Yeah,
me,
well, okay, so I will recover it for you. It's
cool.
simple, it's super simple, and it's easy to follow, but it really, really creates a difference because some people, when I hear people going into transcendental meditation, for example, and they've never meditated before, I'm like, what are you doing? This is not because transcendental meditation is bad. This is because for a beginner, it's too big of a jump because it's way more advanced than what a beginner should start with. So the first step that you can and should train yourself using meditation is step one, which is the body awareness. And this is why, for example, when you practice according to the Buddhist school, they will tell you to focus on your breathing, because focusing on your breathing does the same thing as, say, feeling some texture or tasting something. It naturally puts your mind into the alpha brainwaves. And so you can meditate more powerfully from there. And the third step, I'll recap it quickly because if you want more information, it's all in the book. But essentially, it's scanning your body for any kinds of sensations, acknowledging your sensations. And there is a lot of things you can do from that level, because you can release a lot of body pain if you like to, and become more aware. So you ask me how to develop awareness. You become more aware of how your body functions, what it needs, and basically, because it's such an important part of you, it contributes a lot to how you feel as a person and how you think of yourself as a person. So start with the bodily awareness first, and once you're really confident with that step, once you feel that you've nailed it, then you can move a level up. That is mind awareness. And now you're doing the exact same thing, but with your mind. So basically, you're observing your thoughts and feelings, and you see the contents of your mind without judgment, just noticing what is in there. And then again, it allows you to gain awareness of your mental processes and get to know yourself on a higher level. So once you get that higher level awareness, now you can learn to differentiate your thoughts and thoughts that you picked up from other people. And it's super, super important. I can't stress enough how important it is, because I'm talking to both you and our viewer right now. What you may not realize is that the contents of your mind are not entirely yours. So it's a mixture. And it's true for everyone. So it's a mixture of thoughts that are homemade by your own mind, home baked, and some other thoughts that you picked up from somewhere else. And it's fine to have that, and that's how we function. The problem that can sometimes lead to tragic consequences is when people don't know which are which, and they start acting on those intruder thoughts or foreign thoughts as though they're where they run. And we've got loads of examples, like the middle age crisis, for example, where people realize that they've been acting on someone else's goals and desires and spend maybe decades of their lives chasing the wrong thing. And then obviously it breaks them down, and they have to deal with depression and all of that. And that can be avoided if you analyze the contents of your mind and get the feel of what your own thoughts feel like and what the intruder thoughts feel like. And then you can make an informed decision of whether or not to follow them, because some of them can be good, but some of them maybe not.
Yeah.
So that's your step number 2. Now, step number 3 is about energy awareness.
Can I interrupt again before we get to step 3? Do
Sure.
you think, I found it over the years that people are almost afraid of becoming more self-aware. So whenever you talked about, I try to get people to do the step as well. Step of body first, become aware of the body. That's sort of safe. Like you can look at it and go, maybe I should do more working out, or maybe I should eat better, or something like that. Stuff that you have full control over. Because a lot of people are afraid of getting into their head because they think they don't know what's in there, and they're afraid of what could potentially be in there. Mm. But I like your description of the way you described it, that our thoughts are made up of homemade thoughts and then thoughts from other people, and not knowing which is which. Have you a way for people, it might just be in step 3, but I thought I would ask whilst it was there, for people to work out, like, Is there a way for people to connect in with themselves so that they know which is their homemade thoughts and which is thoughts from other people, and how to react to that?
Well, absolutely. You get that by practicing the second step, because if you keep observing your thoughts for long enough, you will notice that your home-baked thoughts feel different to those that you picked up from outside. And to check that, for example, think about something that is very private and specific just to you. So, how you feel about some family member, how you feel about things that, like, silly little things. Say, for example, you've got like a favorite rock. Say you collect rocks, and how you feel about that rock that you like the most, because that's has nothing to do with anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Chances are you won't have picked up anyone else's ideas because it's so private. And notice how the thought feels. And then think of something. The easiest thing would be to think of some social issue, because most of us, unless we're researchers, chances are you don't have a very specific idea of what you really think of certain social issues as a person. As I said, unless you put a lot of time into researching that.
Yeah.
And most people just go with the flow, so to speak. So they pick up whatever they've been told by someone else is right. And think of that thought and notice how it's different, really different from a thought that you just had that is your private thought. And then you can screen the entire contents of your mind in that regard and see what thoughts are yours, see what thoughts are not yours, see what kind of see what kind of knowledge you hold in your mind. Because there are three kinds of knowledge, as you probably know, that we human beings use and operate from. So you want to, the first one that is doxa, which is the knowledge that is a hearsay, so to speak. You don't really know much of the subject, but someone told you so, and so you know. Well, for example, give you the easiest example of doxa is it's a Greek word, by the way, because we don't really have an equivalent in English that would properly describe that. So it's the kind of knowledge that you store, like a computer stores its bytes of information. Say the easiest example is there are roughly the same number of neural connections in the human brain as there are stars in the Milky Way galaxy. Brilliant. Now you know it. Okay, congratulations. So maybe you can use it. Maybe you can use it for like a pub quiz at some point. But it's not something that you can really use. Now, the next level of knowledge is when you can accept it into yourself. So it's a knowledge that your mind has processed, that you've researched, that you thought about, that you've drawn your own conclusions from. Okay, so to get to that level of knowledge, the process level of knowledge takes effort, and this is why some people don't actually do it. And the third level of knowledge is where ideally we all should aim to be, is the level of knowledge that when you've researched so much, when you're thinking about something constantly, and it's really good for meditation as well, or for any spiritual development. So you've been researching, thinking, analyzing, focusing on something for a long enough time for it to kind of ferment inside and transform into something else. So at that level, an inner alchemy in your mind and your body and your spirit happens. And as a result of that inner alchemy, you now have this transcendental, silent knowledge, silent understanding, which is called gnosis, actually. But it has nothing to do with the religious sect of that. So that gnosis, that silent knowledge, suddenly gives you clarity. So I would say in English, the closest word would be clarity, when you just suddenly know. But
Yeah.
you know not because of some random illumination. It does look random, but it had all this work you put into it that has basically created that alloy of pure gold. Well, obviously, if it's pure gold, it's not an alloy, but you know what I mean. So that inner alchemy of knowledge. So doing that second step allows you to see what is really happening within your mind. And yes, it can be intimidating. It can be almost scary for some people, just as you said. And this is why spiritual development, true spiritual development, not some spiritual merry-go-round like some people practice. And it's like, oh, look, there is ego on the block, goes round, round, round. The true spiritual development is a path of a warrior. And by warrior, I mean someone who is willing to look their shadows square in the face and to battle them and become a better person than he was yesterday, every day. So that is the position of a warrior. And this is why you need...
So I love the idea of the warrior. Again, it just fits in with, like, as you know, I love superheroes, so I'm always talking about being superhuman and superheroes. So I love the idea that it's about, like, self-development became a word that was just thrown around everywhere. Like you just do self-development, but if you actually question people and ask, what does that mean? They go, oh, you're developing yourself. Like you just said it the other way around. So the fact that you're saying, like, think of yourself like a warrior, go in and learn about your body. Same thing. A warrior trains the body first, and then they realize that as they're training their body, because they've been put through so many different tasks, that they're actually mentally getting stronger. And then you can fight your own demons. You've got a stronger... I would always say that you need a strong body to hold a strong mind. You can't just sit around and work on your mind all day and not do anything with the physical body.
Yeah.
So that idea that the warrior... Do you think that helps your students battle their demons? Because whenever they come up against a shadow or a demon or whatever they're against, they're not a human going against it, they're a warrior human going against it. Do you think that helps elevate their ability to move beyond where most people, like you said, are stuck in the merry-go-round of, I meditated for 10 minutes, it was okay? So do you think the warrior is something that brings people forward in that journey?
Absolutely, massively. Not only helps, but it actually saved quite a few lives. I'm serious. That kind of mindset had taken some guys through some trials where they admitted otherwise they would not be able to pull through. So sometimes on this journey, it's a real warrior quest. It's not a spiritual Disneyland like many gurus made it to appear. That is not. If you find yourself in a spiritual Disneyland where your ego just loves the idea of learning more tricks, getting more titles or whatever else, that means you're probably not in the right place. Because the real self-development can be strenuous, it can be painful, and the rewards are great. It's like the rewards are fantastic. It's literally like being in the everyday human special forces, where you go through this really grinding process of selection, and it can destroy you. But if it doesn't, then you become someone like a superhuman, like a real life superhero. And it's really, really true with this training. So that comes at the cost. You can't become a real life superhero. You can't fight demons and create amazing things in your own life and in the lives of other people, and can become a leader and change you want to see in the world. You can do all of that, but you have to work for it. There is no shortcut. There is no, this 99-cent trick makes you meditate like a monk. No. No. So you need to have this warrior discipline and warrior mindset to persevere. And if you don't believe me, watch my latest interview with one of my students, who actually he describes his journey in the most fascinating detail. Cool. And it gives you a good insight into what the journey, what that path is really you like and what it takes. Now, if you don't have the mental strength and the grind that it takes, it's really easy to stumble. And this is why you need training. Like, nobody will be sent to a war zone without training normally. So I would say, if you want to do self-development, train yourself up, do it safely, know what you're doing. This book that I showed earlier actually is a great help, because what it does, it teaches you pitfalls to avoid, things to like mistakes that many people make that can put them into trouble. So essentially, it can keep you safe on this journey, and that is so important. So you need to be a warrior to succeed, and sometimes even just to pull through, because there are people who fall by what we can call the spiritual wayside, where they just end up being more depressed and broken. And I know nobody talks about it because, well, honestly, it's not good for the business. And if your guru admits that there are casualties along the way, but the way I train people, there are actually no casualties, because I know how to do it safely, and I know how to take guys from where they want to be, from where they are to where they want to be in the quickest and safest way. And this is why the transformation you can see in that video is,
I think that's a sure sign of a true master, is someone that doesn't shy away from the problem areas as well. Like, growing up like in martial arts and around different masters, I met so many that they had the special technique that you'd never lose a fight, you would never get injured, nothing. You would win everything, and you're like, hypothetically, that I messed the move, you can't mess the move up. I'm like, well, that's, so I'm just invincible. You've created an invincible person. Whereas a true master is someone that looks at all areas, and you have it in the book and things as well. But when someone new comes to you, you don't just, excuse my French, fill their head with bullshit to try to make them feel powerful and amazing, and then they go out in the world, like you said, to the battlefield and come back injured, going, here, what's going on now? Whereas you're treating them with the respect to go, this is going to be hard, it's going to be a grind, it's going to be difficult, there's going to be times where you're afraid. Like, especially for men don't like coming in, and even when I say, when we go to do sparring, first day sparring, you will be afraid. I'll not be afraid. Well, then you're going to get killed, because you're not afraid and you're too cocky. Something bad's going to happen. Yeah. So the fact that you're actually approaching all of that, because most people just, in my experience anyway, think meditation should just be easy. It's why I think so many people fail. They go, sure, it's just sitting down. I can't even do that. I'm shit at it. And then they leave, and you're like, that's not what it is at all. So I just love that. This isn't a question. It was just something that I really enjoy speaking with people who actually look at the hard parts of life and study, and if you want to improve, the effort that it takes to do it, and then proven by the fact that you've done it so much that you've become a master of it. Not just, you don't just talk about it down the pub going, I could do a wee bit of meditation on a Tuesday evening with some of the girls around the road, or me and my mates do it after football. It's an actual, it becomes a way of life. And
absolutely,
that's where I think someone who meditates for real is different than someone who does meditation. Same as martial arts. I used to ask people, like, they would say to me, I've been at martial arts for a year, I've been doing kung fu for a year, and I go, how often do you train? They go, I'll go to a Tuesday and a Thursday class. And I'm like, right, so you've done about 104 hours of martial arts. And I'm like, I do that in a week. Maybe not a week, but you know what I mean? Like, if you train properly in a month, you've done 5 of their years in your 1 month.
For
so
sure.
Then because you do that, you're walking around as the warrior, as the master, as, like, you feel protected, you feel safer, you feel stronger, you feel like a warrior, like you feel superhuman. Like, I imagine a lot of people listening and watching have never experienced just feeling superhuman, feeling like a warrior. So I suppose I do have a question now that I ranted like that.
God.
With that in mind, if you had met me and I didn't have any clue about any of this stuff, how would you describe it as like to be, first of all, a warrior and then a master? So what is it like? Like if I'm going to call it myself a normal human. If I was a normal human and you
Right.
were describing what it feels like to be a master and then what it feels like, or feels like to be a warrior and then a master.
Right. Okay. That can take a little bit more time to explain. So that would make our podcast overrun.
That's a podcast for a different day. Cool. That'll bring people back. We'll get you back. That's going to be when I get you back. That'll be
right.
what we'll talk about.
Okay. Yeah, I'm very happy to explain that because I love your question. And this is so important for people to understand because there are so many people out there who should be there reading. I hate to say that, but they're not masters, they're not teachers, and they're there for the wrong reasons. Not everyone, luckily, not everyone, but there are just too many people who are in that position simply because they're good marketers and they position themselves as spiritual teachers. And a good marketer is not a spiritual teacher, no matter how sleek their branding is. But that's the branding that most people buy, and it damages people. And I've seen so many people being led astray by those individuals. So yes, I think we absolutely need to talk about it, and it's a really important thing to give people clarity on.
Yeah, I think the self-awareness will come in just when you mentioned you don't like saying that there's gurus out there that aren't in it for the right reasons. I personally have no problem saying that, and I will confront them whenever I ever meet them.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's where your self-awareness comes in, because it takes people a bit of time, and then eventually they catch on. So it's sort of like their self-awareness overrides their spotlight looking or their excitement or their pedestal putting. So if you develop your self-awareness, if that's your focus, then when you meet the gurus that are just in it, marketing gurus that know a way of making money, you'll feel it. And when you meet an actual master like yourself, you'll feel it. You'll go, Master J feels a lot different than Jimmy down the road that's taught me to do 5 deep breaths a day. Like, so I think that
my students actually tell me that. They say you feel different to other people, and this is what has drawn me to you.
Yeah. Well, even if you think back to whenever we first met, like I came over to Kent to do a workshop with you, and I did some mobility in the workshop, but I flew over on one conversation. Whereas if I didn't feel that difference, we would have had a couple more conversations till I really was sure. And then most likely I would have just said no, because I know it's happened before, and I'm a bit more blunt and forward than most. I can't go and work under a fake guru, because if they never say to me any questions, it's fine. I'll just stay in my lane. But if they happen to say, does anyone have a question? I can't help myself. I just be like, yes. And then I will question what I think needs to be questioned, which is not great for their students. Whereas, like, the awareness is there. You feel like someone that wants to. I know being around you, I'm going to improve. I'm going to grow anyway, no matter how long I've been doing whatever I've been doing. There's so much that you can teach, and there's so much experience that you've had that I haven't had. So I think if people just switch on a little bit, they start to notice that. They start to notice the fake gurus and the actual masters that are around. Again, not a question, just an observation, I suppose. I know I've kept you for a long time. Is there anything that you would like to hit on before we round up? Is there anything that you want to get across before we...
Sure. Okay, so yes, so I would say, guys, if you're into self-development, please put safety first. So find the right person to train you. That's paramount for your success, because no self-training, no solitary effort can get you to your destination as fast and as safely as a good teacher can. So that's the thing to keep in mind. And I would sincerely recommend this book. I know I showed it before, but that is such a helpful reality manual for you if you want to start on your journey and if you want to keep it real. So if you want real results, I would say prepare yourself in the right way. And this book, the Codex, gives you all the fundamentals that you need to begin your journey and to succeed and to stay safe. So I would say that. And
I'll link it below as well.
And well, last but not least, thank you so much, Liam, for having me on your podcast. I really enjoy talking to you. I always do. So I know that's nothing new, but I would just say that anyway. Always a great pleasure talking to you.
Thank you very much. Where is the easiest place for people to reach out to you and find you?
My YouTube channel and my website, and they're both Arya Creed. Arya is a Sanskrit word for a warrior in spirit. The reason why I'm using this word, by the way, just quickly, the reason why I'm using it is because we don't have a similar word in English, which is unfortunate. So Arya essentially means a warrior in spirit, but ultimately it means someone who has become different from the rest because of the work they put into their self-development.
Brilliant. I love that. Master J, thank you very much for coming on. It was an absolute pleasure. I will link everything below anyway so that people can find it easier. And I look forward to our next conversation in general and our next podcast. For everyone listening, thank you very much. Have an amazing day, whatever you get up to, and I will speak to you again soon.
Thank you.